Put the flashlight behind us, so I feel like there's something.
I'm gonna grab it. Let's go.
Put the flashlight behind us. I feel like something's watching us. I'm not even
Jesus.
kidding. Jesus.
So guys, we're out here in steamy Savannah, Georgia. We're at a very haunted graveyard, and we're hearing a lot of voices. Haven't seen anything out here yet. We got this place sealed off like crazy. So got a little group with us down there. It's starting to get a little creepy, so thought we'd throw this on there. So hope you enjoy it. Check it out.
So my name's Bridget Pitts, and I have lived in Savannah my entire life, and I'm 29 years old. I'm about to be 30, and I love the history aspects of Savannah, but I'm also a huge paranormal enthusiast, and I've worked with various paranormal societies for over 11 years, and I did it since I was 16. And I've also worked with Michael Cook from the TV show The Alaskan Triangle, doing a pilot spinoff in Chippewa Square at the Savannah Theater. And I take pride in what I do when it comes to trying to educate people and for an introduction into the paranormal. And that's what I like to do.
Well, we thank you very much.
It's very nice to meet you guys, and I appreciate
nice meeting
everything.
you too.
Thank you so much.
All right. Here we go.
We're getting our senses today. We've gone all over this place all day today. For what we do, I'm proud of us. And we have like the people that we have like, are just amazing.
And my name's Bridget, so I have lived here my entire life, and I take pride on the history of Savannah. I've actually been kicked off tours since I was 8 years old. It's pretty ironic that I do this as an adult now. Now, the one thing I tell people before I get into all my paranormal equipment in my backpack, I give you 2 stories here instead of 1, because I love the history of Savannah, but it intertwines with so many other things where I get the wheels in your head to turn, okay? Now, we were established as a community since February 12th, 1733. And James Oglethorpe is the founder of Savannah. Now, he came here on a mission from King George at the time to find a defense area against the Spaniards down in Florida. And this was the perfect location, which actually led to the Bloody Marsh battle down in St. Simons, Georgia, which is probably about an hour out from here. And it's an amazing place to go visit. And St. Simons is pretty haunted. Now, James Oglethorpe has so many other different battles that led down in Florida, and he's well known down there. But in order to seal the deal for all of this to happen, he had to meet a man named Tomachichi. Now, Tomachichi is the Yamacraw chief of the Low Creek Tribe Nation. And the Low Creek Tribe Nation was settled along the Savannah River facing north. And if y'all have gone down to River Street, that beautiful body of water is our Savannah River. And in the beginning, they couldn't communicate. But there was a woman here named Mary Musgrove. Now, she was half Creek and also half English. Huge translator, and over the course of time, James and Tomachichi were able to build a bond, a friendship. So James has taken this as an opportunity to try to colonize. Now, Tomachichi was very apprehensive, and he's like, I like you, but I don't know the ways of you and your people. So James persuaded him to go back to England, meet the king, see how everybody lived, and they had a great time. Now, when he met the king, he presented a gift, and that gift was 3 bald eagle feathers. And he stated that this was the fastest bird in his land, and it was a symbolism of strength. So technically, he's the first person to ever represent the United States of America before it was even the United States. It's funny how that turns full circle July 4th, 1776. Now, they both get back here and they agree on colonization, and Tomachichi said, you can stay here under one condition. As you begin to build on this land, if you come across my ancestors who are buried here, you need to build around them. And if you must build in certain locations where my people might be buried, you have to build in a manner where you cannot touch bodies, you cannot remove bodies, you cannot disturb bodies whatsoever. And James accepted that. This is why Savannah's built the way it is. Now, James bought land from Tomachichi, and there were sacred grounds that were off limits. And a lot of people thought James Oglethorpe was this madman in his era, but we would consider him progressive or woke. And the reason I say that, you were not allowed to drink here in Savannah, and slavery was stopped here from 1735 till 1751 by a royal decree from the British. Now, this was a utopia prior, and whatever James Oglethorpe said in this town went, whatever Tomachichi said also went. You had 2 leaders here. Now, some respected it, some did not, and James didn't care if you didn't. Now, around 1739, James goes back home to England, and he tells Tomachichi, man the fort while I'm gone, I'll be back. Now, while he's back home in England, he gets this letter abruptly that states, Tomachichi's very sick, you need to come back here as quick as you can. Now, this is about a 20-plus day journey by boat, so he's mentally preparing a funeral for this man. Now, unfortunately, Tomachichi dies October 5th, 1739. And the reason why this story is so significant here in Wright Square, This is the William Washington Gordon Monument. Now, this was erected in 1883, but this is where Tomachichi is actually laid to rest when he passed. Now, originally, before this was built here, there was pillars in each section of the square, and James Oglethorpe was one of his pallbearers, so he laid his casket to rest. And in the Yamacraw style tradition, there was this huge native mound and pyramid stone stacked on top, and he gave him a military 21-gun salute. He loved him like a brother. Now fast forward to 1842, William Washington Gordon dies, and he's buried in Laurel Grove Cemetery. So if somebody tells you that they share a grave here, it's absolutely false, and you can pull it up on Google. Now, that's another term why I got kicked off tours when I was a kid. Now, the one thing I tell people, when they decided to build this monument, for some reason the townspeople said, this is a great spot to put a monument for a man from Savannah. So they start tearing down all the stones and the pillars here, don't even notify the family. The family sees it from the corner of their house, and when we walk up here, you can actually see this monument right from their house. It's insane. And the survivors are women, so this was Nellie Gordon, which was his daughter-in-law, and Eleanor Gordon. And they're frantically saying, as a family, we do not want this placed here. But nobody cared what women had to say, so they built this anyway. Now, Nellie Gordon was a firecracker nerd. She partied a lot, she spoke her mind, and she was part of a society called the Colonial Dames Society, which is also known as the Daughters of the American Revolution. Now, they fought for rights and historic preservation. And she goes, if you're not going to stop doing this, we as women are going to do something so people remember Tomachichi's name. So they scrounge up $1.50, get in touch with Stone Mountain Company in Atlanta, Georgia, and request for a granite boulder with a copper plaque to be built to honor him. It's that big rock that you see right over there. Now that's where I got kicked off my tour, and we'll get an up close in person soon, but that's where I got kicked off my tour when I was 8 years old, because they said if you run around that rock 3 times yelling Tomachichi's name and put your ear up to it, he will call to you from the grave. And I said, but he's not buried there, he's buried over here, plus there's a plaque that says it too. And they said, oh, little girl, you don't know what you're talking about. And you know, he almost made a mockery out of me, and so I'm getting defensive, like sad. And my dad pulls me back and says, oh no, you're not about to do that. We're locals on this tour, and we've lived here our whole lives, and you're lying. And it got so heated between my dad and that tour guide for what he did to me. They kicked us all off the tour, and now I do it as an adult. Poetic justice, right? Now, the Tomachichi Federal Courthouse, this big, beautiful white building in the back. Now that is the bankruptcy federal courthouse, but back in 1733, that is the original magistrate court. So if you were sentenced to go to jail or be executed, that's the building that they would determine your fate. And it's actually under construction right now. They're doing so much remodeling, there's no court going on, and that's the original structure. You can't tear anything down here. And here's another good example. If you were sentenced to jail, that CVS pharmacy where my friend Trisha lives in the upstairs apartment is the original jailhouse back in 1733. Wow, so instead of taking the elevator, if you have to take the emergency stairwell exit, you still see the cast iron bars painted over white where they blocked out the windows. And then the studio apartments upstairs are the original jail cells back in 1733. They run $1,800 a month, so cool. And you feel like you're in a box. And it echoes. Wow. Beautiful building. I hate it. And her cat, Biscuit, Trisha's cat, hisses at things we can't see. And I would stay over there, and I'd wake up at 3:15 to almost 4 in the morning every single time I'd stay there, and her sink faucets would turn on and off, and her cat starts growling at things that I can't see, and it would sit on my chest and just look at things. And then the new thing is she has an old record player where you have to drop the needle on it, and it plays music on its own now. Oh, that is the new thing. So it likes music. 3 a.m. Now, the witching hour. Now, another thing I do tell people, if you were sentenced to death, we did it by hanging, and this is our execution square. This is called Judgment Square. Told you. Now, that big thick tree in the back over here, which I'll let you guys start roaming around here in a little bit when I get everybody set up, but it's this big thick one right over here in this corner. And it's the biggest, thickest tree that we have. They drag you out of that courthouse and string you up. Now, they got really fancy before Tomachichi died. They used to have a massive podium up here, and everybody would gather around it and watch you hang. Now, the first woman in the state of Georgia to ever be executed by hanging is a young girl named Alice Riley. Now, she was 16 when she came from Ireland. She's on podcasts. People write plays about her. She's out there. Now, when she came here with a guy named Richard White, who was her common law husband. Now, they were both itemized and assigned to a man named William Wise. And this is volunteer slavery, so this would be their master. But William was this terrible man from England who lied through his teeth in order to get here. In order to get to the New World, they wanted you married at the time, because this goes back to the 1600s. They used to send women by boats across America before it was the United States, just to populate. Now, since he wasn't married, he hires a couple working girls, one to play his wife and an underage one to play his daughter, gives this whole sob story. They allow him access here. Now, he ditches the girls, doesn't even pay them for their time, and becomes this farmer that nobody likes but money talks. So people turn a blind eye to everything he does. He used to dehumanize his servants by stripping them down bare naked and making them roam around the house. Now, when Alice and Richard get assigned to him, he starts physically and sexually abusing Alice. Now, anytime Richard, her partner, would defend and fight back in her honor, he would get beaten and tortured to the point of almost death. She was so scared to lose this only connection she had here, she decided to take this abuse on instead to not lose him. And then she started waking up morning sickness and realized she was pregnant. Now, they had it at this point. They're coming up with an escape plan, which involved a routine bathing. Now, Alice Riley was always forced to bathe William Wise in the tub naked, and Richard White always had to watch. And on this night, it's March 1st, 1734, and it's another routine bathing. Now, as Alice is bathing William in the tub, Richard creeps up from behind and proceeds to attack him and starts to drown him. As he's fighting back, Alice grabs a razor and takes it to his throat and finishes off the job. When they finally kill him, they take his body out of the tub, sneak it down to the river, and they dump the body. Now they run to a beautiful area called the Isle of Hope. And this is about a 35-minute drive, but by foot, this is a journey. And so they didn't have roadways like we do now. And so they're trying to run out there, and somebody the next day is down by the river and they spot a body. And it's William Wise. So now they're looking for Alice and Richard to question him in the town, and they can't find him. So a manhunt ensues because they realize that this is a murder. And before they get out to the Isle of Hope, they get caught immediately, dragged back here, thrown into magistrate, and they're both sentenced to be executed for the death of William Wise. Now, Richard was executed immediately. Also, he was trying to defend Alice and protect her in court because he knew she was pregnant. They didn't believe anything, and she's begging these people in court that she's with child, and they didn't believe her. They called her a liar. Get her ready. So as they try to drag her out to that tree, she is weeping and begging. And a doctor who's in the crowd stops everything and says, "Let me just see if she is actually pregnant first." And he confirms in front of all these people she was. And the best that they could do for this young 16-year-old was lock her back up for the remaining term of her pregnancy. And they stated, "After you give birth, we're setting you an execution date." So she gives birth to a baby boy named James in jail. And then they take James from her just like they do in prisons now. And then they set her an execution date for January 19th, 1735. Now, they dragged her out here and they hung her in that tree for 3 days as an example. Now, on the third day, her body went missing. Some say she's buried on 9th West York. 9th West York is Wright's Cafe on this street right here. All these buildings that you see right here, that is our original cemetery ground from 1733 till 1750, and right underneath liquid sand, there's a plaque to prove it. There's 2 plots over there, and that is my back next door neighbor because I live over here. Now, that's it. It talks about William Cox, our yellow fever doctor, but nothing about her. He had proper burial rights. If you were a slave or an indentured servant, they didn't bother giving you rights back in those days. You were nothing to them. And so they did claim in that second documentation that they cut her body down and they fed her to the pigs. And a pig can eat your body on a farm within 4 hours and it leaves nothing behind but your hair. And so to add insult to injury, her baby died 2 weeks after her execution of malnutrition. Nobody took care of him. You were considered a bastard child back in those days. And so people see her here in broad daylight and at nighttime weeping and begging for her baby back. Now, I've never seen that personally, but I do communicate with her. The only time I've ever actually seen her, and it was in a brief moment. I actually did go to Wright's Cafe, and I decided to go to it just one day 2 weeks ago. And everything around me, as I'm trying to talk to somebody, and we're sitting there halfway through, all I could hear was silverware clanking around me. Everything was getting tunnel vision, and I was like, I need a moment. Excuse me. Because it got so heavy around me, and I felt overwhelming dread. And I went into the bathroom, and of course they have 10 mirrors everywhere. And I said, oh, this is great. So I'm trying to like wash my hands and everything. And I look up in that mirror and I see her standing behind me. And I remember I was just like, I opened the door and I said, I'm ready to go now. And they were like, why? And I said, I'll talk to you about it when we start walking away. I can't. It was the most intense, uncomfortable feeling I've ever had. And I haven't had that in a long time. And so the one thing I tell people, it's very different, but people she usually triggers here are women, children, and pregnant women especially. And the cops get called out here so much, it is a hazing ritual for the rookies. And I would know that because my Uncle Sheriff, John Wiltshire, He talks about it all the time. Now, he's not my uncle by blood, so that's why I said my Uncle Sheriff. John Wiltshire, both my parents were cops for years. Now, I am going to introduce you to her, and she does have a lot of problems with guides. Now, last night, my 10 p.m. saw that as an unfortunate witness. There were some people by the tree who kept screaming, "Alice, I have your baby." And I kept saying, "Okay, yeah, you could do that." And I wasn't yelling, I was just saying, I hope you get haunted. You know, because you don't do that to people. You don't, number one thing I tell people, we don't disrespect the dead on my tour.
No.
You wouldn't want that to happen to anybody that you love. And if it's a stranger, you got to have that love too. So I do have pendulums, and we'll be talking about those here in a minute. But these are my favorite. So these are called dowsing rods, and they're used to find water wells and pipes, and they do spin in your hands, and they're pretty cheap. You can make them at home. Now, the one thing I tell people, God love you, they're used to find water wells and pipes. Plumbers use them for work to find your water line. But if you're a woman holding them in the 1800s, you were considered a witch trying to contact the dead. Now, people use them for meditation, and you can ask the universe various questions for them. So I always tell you, bring to your center and think of meditation. Just relax and find your balance. Now, Alice Riley, if you are here, could you please cross my rods and make yourself known? It's me, Bridget. Could you uncross my rods and bring them back to center? Now, could you give my group an example of what a no is and push them out as hard as you can? I feel that rattling. These are all examples of no's. Could you straighten my rods back out for me, please, if you don't mind? And I tell people, tiny T-Rex arms, it keeps you very steady, because I hate when people try to debunk them. Now, could you please cross my rods as hard as you can? Thank you. Now, if you tend to shake, sometimes I can, especially if I'm too tired. So holding them out here is not that best, but if you just try to, you can even cup your arms, and if you feel more relaxed to push them out, you can, if that keeps you more steady. Whatever makes you feel more in control. Tiny T-Rex arms sometimes is this. Just remember to relax before you use them. You want to give more? Okay. I'm going to throw some out over here too. Then we got a good bit of them.
Should I like say something or?
So ask yes or no questions. So think about this, right? So zone out for a little bit, like in meditation.
I don't know what to say.
Then I'll give you technology.
Oh yeah, he's good at that.
All right, so this is an ovulus.
They're not gonna hurt you, baby.
So it's a talk to text for go, so I'm about to turn it on. Spin off. So we're turning it on, and it's touch screen, okay? So all these different things. You got true and false here. Sometimes it speaks, but like, there was a guy who swears by this pH. You'll hear random things, and he kept putting it up to his ear, and every time he was asking something while we were walking, he swears to God it was actually, he could actually hear it communicating back on that level. But this is the talk to text for ghosts for ABC. Celebration and soil. So it has over 10,000 words built into this system, right? And it speaks about over 100, 150 languages. Sometimes we have to pull out Google on our phone to figure out what it's saying. Now, one thing is I want you to periodically shout it out, or at least show him so he can say it out loud for the group, okay? What's that?
So what are we?
No, okay.
Is anyone here? Say it.
You're doing good. What do I say?
Job.
I'm kind of confused.
You ask. Oh, we're good for right this second.
Now, that is called
If it's yes, if this is the woman that was just talking with Bridget, can you put him back? If this is the woman that was talking to Bridget, can you put him back in the X for me?
Move back up. Holy moly, babe.
show you an example.
Thank you. Can you put him back out for me?
How it works.
Watch out, brother. Back up.
Can you put him back out for me?
Where's mine? Come in, get trailered.
Thank you.
Wow.
This is where I try to separate.
Oh, there they go.
This is the first time I've ever used these. What do you want me to ask? What should I ask?
Hold on. There we go.
Are you happy that we're here to visit with you?
Alright, so I'm going to
If yes, can you move them in the X?
Now, as you begin to use them, you
If it's a no, put them both out for me. If you are not happy that people are here to visit you.
I think it's the S.
That means in between.
What should I ask? Do you miss your baby? If it's a yes, put it in an X for me. If it's a no, put them out.
Means no. Could you please stop our pendulums?
The word there. What's the word say?
Communicate. People use these for meditation.
So yell it out.
They're pretty dope, right? But they're for protection. So
You gotta yell out the word every time a word comes up. Yell out soil.
So if they happen to break the
Now, usually with something like this, like when we're walking around, if we're like trying to gather information, it'll come up here. Like if we don't know like a name or like we're trying to ask it questions, but obviously it can't communicate with us, right? So it'll talk with us like this. It's almost like an automatic,
just like a spirit box.
yeah. So it's almost like a text message, but it just comes out in words.
That's why
But
it's
in
called.
like 1 or 2 words. 'cause
Think
it
of
can't-
digital dowsing. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes we're like, we have no idea. But I always tell people around us, try to communicate and let's see if it's pretty spot on. I've had somebody who kept talking to it over and over again. And then when they decided to use just those words, not just the text part, it was when I was showing you the pH, and so the speakers on the back, it starts to communicate. The guy, when he was walking around, he kept putting us up to it, and he could actually almost hear voices coming through that.
Wow.
So you can always do the touch screen, back's the home, and so the pH is the other one. So whatever you feel like, play with it for a little bit.
cool.
What did it say?
Say it.
Stab. Stab? Great.
It said stab.
It said stab.
What was it?
Now,
Did someone get
You got
stabbed?
stabbed
What we're gonna
and
do
answer.
is get people to come wander with me, and I'm going to take you closer by the cemetery ground. '20 reared its ugly head, fires and the yellow fever epidemic. 2020 was a bad year for us. 1820 was a bad year for Savannah and other places around the area. They actually said every 100 years it brings bad luck. Every 100 years, almost every 200 years, there's always something that affiliates. Because if you look at the Spanish flu and other things, there's always some gap in between something that comes
You want to run
through.
around it 3 times, buddy?
No.
You didn't want to?
You sure about that?
Let's do it.
No.
With that, let's go.
Why?
You can do it. Come on.
No.
Just 3 times real quick.
Run, just don't
All
say
right,
anything.
forget it. Chicken poo-poo head. Can't do it for the fans. Do it real quick.
I don't want to say it loud.
Speak for, I don't know, home, I guess. Alone.
Alone?
Speak home alone.
alone.
Oh God, okay. So that might be Tamachichi. He's been wanting me to give him an offering of like some bread. And so I think he wants to speak to me because I keep forgetting. And this was in the last like week, and I said, I'll bring you some, I just gotta go back to your
It's like you don't bring me my bread, I'm gonna get you alone, and you're not gonna like it.
I gotta like a baguette or something nice bread. I have tons of nice bread.
You said you killed.
Oh, the breeze feels amazing.
For certain things, we had a massive flood back in the day where
With the horse carriage, how romantic.
well, this is an amazing cemetery. Now, it was built in 1750. So, where we started, that's where our original cemetery grounds took place. Then they opened this bad boy up. So, from 1750 till 1856, this was open, and nobody else is allowed to be buried in here. Ever since 1856, that was it. That was cut off. Now, we had 3 massive yellow fever epidemics, and we lost 82% of our population in total. And we ran out of room to bury our dead. We had to start burning them in the squares. Now, the ones that are buried, this cemetery is so much bigger than what you guys see. This cemetery goes past this fire department in the back alleyway, all the way past these homes where the first alley starts. Now, if you notice down here, that same brick that we walked over is over here.
About as
Circular spirals. Now, when people start to kind of wander around here, sometimes they feel like concave areas in this brick, and they're kind of long. And so as that happens, sometimes there's a pockets that have been collapsing underneath the erosion from water, rain, and so it just gets compact and crushed underneath the surface.
So I hope there's not a sinkhole.
We got a couple of them,
Right?
That's Florida.
Oh, true. Obviously Florida.
So some were actually
Look at
designed
these.
to be above ground.
Oh, they lock it at night, huh?
Now, from general terms, right? When you wander in here, you'll see so many broken headstones, it's ridiculous. Reason why a lot of these had to have concrete put on top of it, we had a lot of people, when the Union came here, this was the Union campsite, to make room.
I'm gonna have to walk over here tomorrow in the daytime.
So there was a famous man in here named Nathaniel Green. He's one of our Revolutionary War generals. He's buried in Johnson Square with his son
what you
George
got
Washington Green, his wife Catherine, and all of them. Now they were all buried in here originally.
Did anything says walking?
His body, casket and all, went missing inside of here for over 100 years. They had to exhume all of these tombs that you see, and they kept looking for over 100 years, and they found him stuffed away in the Graham's vault down on the side over here in 1901, and they've relocated him and his whole family over to Johnson Square. So he looks like he actually has the Washington Monument. It's unfinished, by the way, but they relocated him over there.
Perfect.
And he was best friends with George Washington. That's why he named his son George Washington Green. And he was from Rhode Island, and he hated the heat here. God love him. But, you know, he died of a heat stroke, too. And he was like, oh my God, I think he was like 46, 47. It's crazy. But that is the one place that doesn't grow Spanish moss, because on his deathbed, he was trying to remove all the Spanish moss here in Savannah. He thought it was from Spain. Fun fact, it's not. And on his deathbed, they were like, it's impossible, and so he died. But when they relocated him, not a drop of Spanish moss grows in that square. It's very interesting.
That's fascinating.
Now, that's why you see a lot of those that are covered up, because there's so much grave desecration. They used to hide so many bodies in here, especially from the Union. Oh, what is this? It said scratch? No, you ain't gonna scratch nobody. Now, so they used to do that from the Union, where they would hide so many bodies around here because they get bored. This was their campsite. And so there was so much grave desecration. So when you take this trail in here and you go straight shot back when we walk this way, on the inside there's all of these headstones that are plaqued in on the wall. If you haven't gone in here, this is mind-boggling to come and see.
We gotta
in the
come in
daytime.
tomorrow for
Now,
sure.
This has been known on TikTok and on Facebook. Now the one thing I tell people, since it's on TikTok and on Facebook, sorry, I don't trust people. Now,
thank
since
you.
it's been on TikTok and on Facebook, the thing I tell people, we're known for Andrew Williams. Now, the only reason we know this, I had a friend who decided to look up all the graves that were in here, and we identified that there was a kid named Andrew. He was 8 years old, and he said he died by falling in a well. Now, as we were going in here, there was a kid that matched the criteria, and there was a kid who was 8 years old when he died, and he died in 1850. And he's buried in here with his family. And there used to be a well inside of here. And he died by falling in that well when he was playing and didn't listen to his mother, who was visiting his father, who was already buried in here. Now, he's on YouTube, he's on TikTok, because if you look up Colonial Park, Savannah, Ghost Boy, he pulls up. And in the daytime, people have caught so many apparitions in broad daylight. It doesn't have to be just at night. I tell people, snap as many photos in the daytime as possible. I had a woman on my tour who was on a daytime tour, and as she's snapping photos, she sees this translucent person holding a child. And she was like, yeah, it's on my Instagram, look. And I was like, that is incredible. That needs to go viral. I said, you don't understand. And so you can get so many things. Because at nighttime, I try to tell people there's so much we have to debunk at night. You have lens reflection, which is from your cameras. You have so many other things that we have to debunk, unfortunately. But in the daytime, make that possible when you have so much light around you where it's so translucent. I can see you. I heard that. You can see me. I want to see you. Can you show yourself to somebody in my group then? Behind you.
Behind you.
You behind me?
Station.
In the cemetery. Okay, can you show yourself in the cemetery if people look around? These are nice people. You start getting close-up shots roaming around with the camera. If you want, you can hold this. People do want to help you. It's okay. People love to help you.
Hey, Renee. Say hi, Renee.
Walk slowly around here. I want him to start doing camera shots slowly going around.
Instructed we might have something over here.
Is that the world?
That's a
Yes, sir. So you see how green is neutral right now? Picks up on electromagnetic fields we can't see.
K2
My
meter.
phone is one of them. And when I turn it on, you notice how it does that? And once you start sticking your hands in the gates or around periodically, see if you get energy. Periodically. Can you set that K2 meter off, that EMF?
What's
I
that?
thought, no, not you. I was telling the guys.
Oh.
You're doing good. I saw something going.
Savannah and William.
Savannah and William. Hi, William. William, do you want to communicate? I think we've spoken
Oh.
to you before over here. Are you okay, William?
Oh. Well, that's one of K2.
All through.
It's going green.
Oh, it's,
Hi.
that's not one the yellow than the red.
Okay, let's go in the darker section. It's okay. We're not here to bother you. And that's Button Gwinnett's memorial on the inside. William, are you still here with us? William. Andrew.
Funeral threat gag.
William, are you still here? Because I swear. William, can you tell us your
Funeral
story?
threat gag. And it's definitely, it's usually just the 2 or 3. We're getting 4, maybe 5 now.
William, did your wife leave? Is that spiking? Yeah. William, did your wife leave? Yes? Okay. I know it can be hard to talk about, but can you tell me what happened to you after that happened? What happened to you, William? William, were you hung?
Cool.
Were you hung, William? Did you commit suicide? Ask the question. Were you hung, William? Are you here with us?
This way. William, were you hung? Please tell me on here.
Do you remember? If you remember, can you give us the age? Give us the number. Is anyone here with us? Are there any spirits here with us? Yep. Said yep. How many are here with us? 20. 20? 20. People. 20 people. What are your ages? What is your name? Can you speak one at a time? Like they're temperamental. A lot of them are very temperamental.
So guys, we're out here in steamy Savannah, Georgia. We're at a very haunted graveyard and we're hearing a lot of voices. Haven't seen anything out here yet. They got this place sealed off like crazy. So got a little group with us down there. We was actually going to do this on the Wood Life, what we did today on our vlog channel, but I'm going to put this on Destination Unknown because it started to get a little creepy, so thought we'd throw this on there. So hope you enjoy it. Check it out. So it's a little bit more paranormal, and I got this thing from the paranormal instructor, and it keeps talking to me, and this is like a K2 meter up top. Usually it's just the 2 white, but ever since we got anywhere close here, and especially if I start walking, it starts talking. So you see that red right there? Oh, maybe I found something. But we're definitely getting spikes, and this thing is talking. So there's multiple spirits to be believed to be in this. This thing is just going. Look at that! Holy shit! It is just blowing up. Let me get away from it. Away from the camera. It is just going, guys. Look at this. Right here by this graveyard. This thing is just talking. I don't know if you can pick up what it's saying. But amazing. Look at that. That's huge church in the background. Maybe I'll throw some footage on that from the vlog channel, Wood Life. But Destinators, definitely cool graveyard. If you're ever around Savannah, Georgia, I would definitely suggest checking this out. Probably going to come back here in the daytime tomorrow and see if we can get some more footage of it. But this thing is humongous. They also, because after 1856, they stopped burying people in this graveyard. After 1856, they stopped. So it's this huge before 1856. Yellow fever hit, and they just started burying people like underneath this sidewalk, and like for blocks. This used to be, before they built the buildings, was just all graveyards. So literally, the grooves in the sidewalk, and if they hump down, usually coffins have been crushed. And like, so there's just, this place is filled with thousands of dead bodies, not just in here, but out here as well. So every time I walk down the streets with this thing, all I do is hear voices. It's unbelievable. All right, let me go and join the crew.
What happened?
So we're meeting Mean Bob, and he says y'all can come here.
Okay.
Just passed away. Did somebody hurt you?
Periodically, like while you do this, put your hand up and see if you feel a cold spot. And then when you do, use that meter around you. Because there was a cold spot. Who was amputated?
I think Bob said amputated.
Yeah, somebody was talking like crazy as I was walking up here. I couldn't tell what he was saying, but I got a lot of it. For the destinators. What do you think, bro? Got broken here tonight? Dude, you're growing too fast, bro. I got to put the camera up to look at you. So K2 meter, put it on the other side of the fence. So you bump into stuff, it might light up. Stick your arm out there. Let a ghost come out and touch it. If there's anyone here, please come touch here so I can see it. Tilt it up a little bit. Oh, please come touch this K2 meter. There you go. And show Brogan that you're here. We'll get definitely some orange. Yeah, so it's like a cold spot. Right, as soon as you reach through here, it's like a temperature of 20, 30 degree change. That's amazing. So Shauna's over here trying to get.
Hey Bob, is that you touching the meter with Brogan?
Robert, is that you?
What was that? Oh, here's this thing going again. This thing will start going off and then you can hear it talk. Here. I got this. Let's see if I can focus in on it. We got a little bit light on this graveyard here. Yeah, he's just talking like anything that stops and goes. Oops, there's my fingers. What's he saying, babe?
Is there anything you want to say before we walk away from here?
This is Mean Bob.
I want to.
About it?
Oh, maybe that. Hold on. Are you thinking about it? That's okay. Take your time if that's what you're thinking about, or do you want out? Yeah, I want out. That's. I hope you got that.
Yes, I got it.
I'm sorry. I know.
4 people were killed.
Are they located in the cemetery?
Bob, are you still with
Yeah,
us?
that's me, man. I'm telling you, I put it on the voice instead of the words. And while I was walking, it was red lining like anything and talking to me earlier. That's why I was walking.
Can they come back and visit?
We're going to come back and visit you tomorrow, okay?
Miss me.
I'll miss you. All right, thank you for communicating with us, Bob, and Stephen, and William.
Yeah, go ahead.
He has a pretty clear response.
It's pretty awesome.
I love it, dude. All right,
That
so
was
let's
some
go
pretty
by
cool
the 1790
responses.
to y'all.
Bye, guys. See you tomorrow. Stay there, don't follow. You're locked in anyway. It was a good year.
I want to know. Why is it 1790? What'd you say?
It was a good year.
It was a good year. That's
was
also
built?
yes.
1790?
Oh, no.
Yeah, good year. That's when it was built. Now it did catch fire in 1820. They had to rebuild some of it in 1821. Now this is all original structure. You sleep upstairs, you drink right here, and you eat here. This is family friendly. It is a beautiful place. They take pride in it. There is a spirit named Anna that haunts the upstairs area when you sleep. And there's also a kid named Thaddeus that roams around the bar who likes to leave you pennies. And he's actually on their menu when people want to discuss him. There's also a cook named Kissy who practiced hoodoo, and she was a slave cook. Now what I am going to get you guys to do is come on in here, enjoy the atmosphere, grab a cocktail if you want. Restrooms are in the back. Do watch your step though.
Right on.
Come on in. Hello. I got a little small room.
Should I put this with your stuff?
Yeah, I'll be out here. You're good. You can drop that in there if you want. And just walk right this way. Yeah, it's a beautiful little bar.
I had dental surgery, which is the saddest part about it. That is just an image.
Oh, cool.
Definitely.
Right here's a great spot.
Oh, there's water right there.
I need the water.
Get some.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Just grab a cup. I'll take this. Watch out when I'm filming. Not the people, but it's a pretty cool place. Watch the waves move on their own. Watch out.
Why?
It is. Definitely a creepy feel, right? Another place. This is a huge one. Pretty cool. There's gates. Everything is just iron, steel, and brick. Everything's like original. It's crazy. It's a pretty cool little pub. Look at these guys.
Yeah. It's nasty. Same way.
So y'all come meet me back out front.
So we got a beer and a bourbon to give to the ghost. What do you think, babe?
Grab a water.
Even in the afterlife, you have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's wrapped around two teeth right there. And I'm sure.
Thank you, sir.
I love.
He said it's full of waste. Why the hell did
There she is. I'm right here with
He was attacked by a ghost. Spirit got him.
Alright, let's go to the front real quick.
They had plenty of spirits in there too. Boy, if we stayed any longer, might have had to get some.
So I wanted to show you guys the front. Ooh, why does it look eerie? Where's the
What the heck?
It does.
There's the lights on in the hallway.
That's someone in the window? What's that?
Yeah,
So
go
the
up to it. Zoom into it, because that's Anna Powell. Yeah, I don't know why the lights are off in the hallway. Those are emergency lights. You have to walk by her to get to your room.
Oh my goodness.
And that is a life-size mannequin of Anna.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say,
And it is so
that?
creepy in the daytime. I cannot imagine going through a red hallway with the emergency lights on. So that's telling me that the lights are not
It's hard
working.
to see because it's dark.
Yeah, because it's supposed
Didn't
to
bring
be
a
bright.
flashlight. Ain't that smart?
See her. Yeah, go ahead and go up, walk up a little bit so you can get a good clear shot of her. But that's Anna Powell. Now I'm gonna be talking about her here in a minute.
Not Annabelle, but
No,
Annabelle.
Anna Powell. Not Annabelle, Anna Powell. Now she was
Same building
She's in
as
this
the bar.
arranged marriage with a man who was 4 times her age, old enough to be her grandfather because she was 13 years old. And she was in this super abusive marriage with him. So if you've never heard of the rule of thumb, back in those days, a man could carry a stick as thick as his thumb and beat you with it.
Mm.
Now, he would do this constantly.
Not to my wife. Kill.
I do with
She
mine
was
all
in
the
this
time.
loveless, abusive marriage, but sailors would come dock down by the river and they would come stay here. So they'd sleep here, eat here, drink here, have a good old time. Well, the next thing you know, Miss Anna runs into a sailor named Johnny. Oh. Now, Johnny ended up promising her the sun, the moon, and the stars. Oh, I'll take you away from all this. We'll go be happy. Well, eventually he had to get back up on that ship, and he's telling her, I'm only going to be gone for 2 weeks, I promise, and I'm coming back for you. So that's the symbolic reference of her in the window facing north towards the river, waiting for the sailor to return. Now, he never would, and they say she locks herself in room 204, which is directly left of this mannequin above this staircase and awning. There's two windows right above this window right here, but you can see the cat eyes above the door. And so that's the entrance to room 204. Now, apparently she jumps out of this window above the staircase and awning and lands out in the street, and she's already dead by the time people found her. And I've never bought this story because you need 16 feet in order to die from impact. That's not 16 feet. You also need to be able to take a good run and jump and clear that window. This walkway is so much wider than the window to the wall in there, there's no way she could have ever taken a run and jump on her own. Now, the day she died, everybody heard arguments. It was documented that they heard arguments between her and her husband in that room, and he found out that she was cheating. So I believe that he killed her in that room, threw her out the window. Oh no, she jumped. It's a suicide. So it's called the honeymoon suite. So when you stay in room 204, you got to sign off on a little bit of a liability. They're not responsible for anything that happens, and if you leave in the middle of the night, you are not getting a refund, okay?
Shut up. Are you serious?
There's like 7 journals of everybody's experiences, and men draw her because she shows herself to men.
Shut
What
up.
up?
Women's
And a
items tend to go
pill.
missing, and they magically reappear. They get scattered down the hallway, end up in the toilet bowls. Women usually feel irritable in that room, but men get all the attention. They feel like a woman's caressing their face, trying to hold their hand, wakes them up throughout the night
Let's
religiously.
get it.
And it's a constant event. It is insane. It's absolutely insane. So the thing that I tell people, it is wild when you go stay there, but Anna's not going to hurt you. She is going to mess with you.
Have you ever stayed there?
I've actually done 2 live stream investigations, and Anna's always confirmed that she was murdered by her husband.
Wow.
She's not there to hurt you, but she will mess with you. And do not touch that mannequin. People tend to do that, and she will target you if you touch that mannequin. So don't do it. Somebody stole her wig the other night. Now, we are going to take these offerings that I have in my hand and take them right over here to the Owens-Thomas House, okay?
When you're like, "Oh, check this out," we're like, no way.
All right.
And I love this.
So before we go up to the front, I always pour out an offering back here. Now this is the front entrance to the museum. It's called the Owens-Thomas House, and it is infamous for the slave quarters here. It's owned by the Telfair Academy. If you buy 1 ticket from them, you get all 3 of them for free. It's like $38. Now, the one thing I tell people, this back building out here is outside slave quarters. The main slave quarters are down in the cellar in the front of the building. And this is a massive property. It was built by William J. when he was 21 years old, and this is the first home in Savannah to have working plumbing. First owner was a banker, a cotton merchant, and a domestic slave trader named Richard Richardson. And I'll be talking about him when we go up to the front. Do watch your step, and we'll go make ourselves a little...
Get your drink on, fella. Are you guys cool with being on film?
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing,
I got you like, I don't know, 100 times. I never did ask.
Right,
We're all
muggy.
dirty South. Gotta love it.
We need to freeze. Y'all get down here, everybody go over to the garden.
It's actually getting a little chilly out right now for me. There's another offering.
Now, before I give this, because I'll introduce you to Mr. Timothy here in a minute. Now, this is called the Owens-Thomas House. Again, this is the front section of it. Now, it was built in 1819 by William J. And the first owner was a banker, a cotton merchant, and a domestic slave trader named Richard Richardson. Now, there were over 300 slaves over the course of time in and out of this property. Now, Mr. Richard Richardson would have a lot of karma coming his way the very following year. 1820 rears its ugly head. This is the yellow fever epidemics and fire outbreaks. Now, there were so many catastrophic events, so many people dying, he was losing money. And so when he was going broke, the bank that he worked for actually owned this house. And so they gave him about 10 years of leniency to start paying back his debts. Now, when that day came to collect, he didn't have the money. And so they kicked him out and made this entire building a temporary boarding house under Mary Maxwell. Now, while this was a boarding house, you had a lot of strangers who would come stay here, and governmental officials like Marquis de Lafayette, who was a French Revolutionary War hero who helped us with the siege of Savannah. And he's done a lot of things, especially in Louisiana. If you ever heard of Lafayette, he's very well known,
Yeah.
especially with Hamilton.
There's a college maybe named after
Yep.
him.
Now, the one thing I tell people, the same occurrence would happen to anybody who would stay here. Your items would move around, but your food would be half eaten. I've never found that strange because in other parts of the world, such as Mexico, Hades, Cambodia, India, China, Africa, you go back to Nordic and Celtic roots, people offer food to the dead. Now, you could go make yourself a plate in here, leave to get up and go get something, you come back, your food's half gone. And it was a very common occurrence and is documented in this house. Since nobody could figure it out, later on a man named George Owens comes to town, big tycoon governor from Louisiana, buys this house for $10,000, becomes the mayor of Savannah, practices a little law, does his own thing, but apparently he commits suicide from the main quarters of the house, but they tell you he died of old age here after he finds his wife in bed with another man. I believe it was a full-blown altercation, and we've always gotten slain and homicide over here when we do a lot of different things. Now, you do see George Owens roaming this property, and you also see his granddaughter, who's known as the Lady in White, which is Margaret Thomas. She is the final owner, and she inherited this in the early 1900s in her 30s. Now, this was like, you know, she was just a woman of means back in those days. A lot of women, they used to cater to being married, and that goes even to the 50s. But she had a lot of money. She didn't care about being married nor having kids. She used to rent rooms out to strangers, do everything for the Savannah community. She was very well respected. Well, they didn't return the favor when she was getting old in the 1940s. So she's trying to find a buyer on this property since she didn't have an heir and nobody wanted it. Anybody who did want to buy the property wanted to tear it down completely and build something else. And so she was begging for somebody to just take this from her so people could learn from it. She has hoarded everything in this house from the 1800s, from the brooms and the dolls that the slaves made and used to the furniture of all the residents over the course of time, including Marquise de Lafayette's room that is still preserved. And so she begged and she wrote up in her will, to whomever takes my house in 1951 when she died in her bedroom, keep my bedroom exactly how I left it and do not remove any of the items that I preserved in this house. And the Telfair Academy has fulfilled those wishes. Now this is an extremely haunted building, even in the daytime. People do see things. People have been scratched in this house, and they usually see a little girl in a pink dress roaming around this property, especially on the staircasing. And you do see things happening in this house, and they don't look like us, and they do disappear on you all the time. If you go to Marquise de Lafayette's room, a lot of people get so sick they have to immediately leave this room. Now this is a self-guided tour, so when you come in here, you're doing your own thing. Now the main slave quarters are down below in the cellar, and when you go to the outside and inside slave quarters, you're on your own. And if you go to the back section, you'll still see the original haint blue ceilings painted from the slaves. It is chipped to bits, but it's the original paint from it, which is called a haint blue. Haint in Gullah Geechee culture means haunt or ghost, trying to get the haints out. They would take the indigo plant, which dyes your blue jeans blue, make it into a baby blue color to symbolize water as a protection, and it would keep them safe and protected and repel anything negative. That's why when you go to the south, sometimes you see glass blue bottles hanging from trees and ceilings painted that way. It's chipped to bits, but it's the original paint from the slaves. Now, the one thing we are going to try to do, real quick, I'm going to see if I can get Mr. Timothy. So Mr. Tim, he is a gray man in a gray ruffled coat that likes to light matches. And so we had a guy and his wife who were paranormal investigators about almost 2 years ago that said, well, if he likes to do that, let's give him a cigarette. I said, okay. Then later on, we realized he also likes beer and he likes bourbon. So I poured a little bit of beer out, but I am going to pour his bourbon out. And the one thing, we're going to leave him a little bit just so I can see if I could appease him. Let's see if I can get Mr. Timothy
Put your phone in
to smoke a cigarette in front of you guys. So let me see if I can find this lighter. I did drop some things out. All right. Now, Mr. Tim, don't mind for me.
There's a brick missing right there.
Let me see if I can get you to hit this cigarette as hard as you can, if you don't mind for me, and I'm going to leave it up here.
Your folks sit in.
Let's see if you will actually ignite that cigarette as hard as you can for me, if you don't mind.
Keep going.
Hi, Tim. Your bourbon's up there like I promised, and also got you a beer. Do you think you can hit that cigarette as hard as you can? And he's slowly but surely starting to hit it.
He is.
Because I didn't put it up to my mouth. Those are fire safety and they will go out if nobody's hitting them. He also likes to relight cigarettes. Let's see if you could do a nice deep drawback, and I want a solid good drawback on it. Nice big red cherry if you don't mind for me,
Big
sir.
drag.
Nice big drag. He's slowly doing it. Here, go on up to him. Go say hi to him. He likes to talk to men. Likes to talk to men.
What's
Go on
name?
up. Go on up and say hi to him. He thinks it's rude when people don't say hi.
Hey, how we doing? You got anything you'd like to say to us? Speak right into this thing I'm holding, and we'll be able to hear you.
Tell us take a puff, it's about to go out.
Let's see if we'll pull back on it for
Why don't you give us a big pull on that cigarette? Show us that you're here.
I know you're still there, bud. Because I know you like bourbon, and I know you like Jameson and all that. Do you think you can hit it and relight that cigarette for me? He usually does. He doesn't like flash, though, so make sure you don't put the flash up to him.
Sorry about that. That's probably what he might have backed up. I put the light away.
All right, he put the light away. Is that all right? Do you think you can relight that cigarette for us? Brought you that bourbon, buddy. I know you're around here. If I relight it, would you actually hit it again?
Don't be shy. We're not here to hurt you. We just want to communicate. You light that cigarette for us?
You think you come out and come say hi?
Oh, there you
Let me see if he'll
go.
actually hit it.
Oh.
Let me see if he'll actually hit it. All right, Tim. Do you think you can actually do that for some folks?
Oh,
please,
that
if
was a
you
nice
don't
one.
mind?
Go ahead and say, give me my bourbon back.
He's like,
I poured it out.
Now I better light
Oh.
the cigarette.
There's a little bit more beer for you.
And it's a
Oh, he's
Sunday.
enjoying that. Good job.
Chill.
That's right, buddy. Let's see where he might be. You hanging out with this bud? Can you spike this to red for me if you want to come on out and come say hi real quick? Yeah. You in this what? You're probably like,
I hope you got the full story.
yeah. All right, so you're
There we
actually
go.
hanging out
Oh,
around
he's
with
over
these
here.
people. Now, Tim, we just wanted you to smoke a cigarette for a little bit, and I did promise you that bourbon. That's why I poured it out for you, and I gave you a little bit of an offering. And I hope you don't mind. And you're actually hitting that cigarette now,
Oh,
finally.
yeah. There you go, Tim.
Oh, yeah,
Appreciate
it's
you
actually
hanging out.
going red now.
Yeah.
Can you spike this to red for me again, if you don't mind? We just wanted to make sure that you knew that you were welcomed, and I haven't forgotten about you. It's me, Bridget. And I just wanted you to know. And I hope that's all right. And if they can come visit you,
That's
can you hold it to a solid yellow for me? And hold it to a solid yellow if you don't mind them coming to visit you. I know you like to chaperone people. And if that's all right with you, that's what they'll do. They'll come see you. That's who he is. There we go.
Tim.
All right, good deal, bud. Yeah, he's right there.
That's the noise behind us. Big white
Now,
carriage.
Tim, I am going to take that away because Margaret Thomas doesn't like trash.
You heard that,
around
Tim.
here. And we don't leave nothing behind. We leave no traces. And I will be taking this.
Nice hanging out with you, Tim. Have a good night.
Thank you, Tim. Have a good night. They are pretty
What I
cool.
want to do, whether you believe in spirit or not, you're going to humor me once, and always remember to make sure spirit knows boundaries. And please repeat after me, Spirit, you are not welcome to follow me.
Spirit, you are not welcome to follow me.
You must stay here.
You must stay here.
And thank you and goodbye.
We thank you and goodbye.
Always have to make sure spirit knows boundaries so they do not come and follow you and they do not attach themselves to you.
I did that at the graveyard.
That's the one thing. But I think that's
All right, guys, what'd you think about that?
That was pretty cool. Lot of history.
Definitely.
Creepy.
So we're trying a new vlog, the Wood Life, where it's more about us and stuff like that. But you know, when we got to on this tour that took us to that graveyard, like I said earlier, it was like a destination. I know we didn't know where we was going to it. I think we were probably going to a graveyard, but yeah. So we got there and I was getting readings. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna break this off, give some to the destinators, check it out, see what it went. So pretty cool. You want to stand in front of your mother again? But anyway, definitely cool. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And maybe
Something
we'll
different. Y'all been begging for the paranormal, so we wanted to bring it to you.
Definitely. So we're in Georgia right now, Savannah, Georgia, going up to South Carolina, and hope you guys enjoy it. Peace.
Bye.